moving on, the movie that Jacob recommended me, I forget I forget where that reference comes from, but and now for something completely different.
That's Monty Python.
Oh, that's okay. All right, fair enough. Well, now for something completely different. The movie Jacob Rohrbach recommended me was La La Land, by Damien Chazelle. You had said that it's your second favorite movie of all time, so tell us, what is La La Land about?
Well, it's about two people, Mia and Sebastian, who are played by Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, as they are trying to pursue their dreams in L.A., Los Angeles. Mia is an aspiring actress, and Sebastian is a jazz musician who just wants to open his own club. And it kind of just follows their lives as they meet, they fall in love, they eventually get together, and then it continues and shows you what happens after the happily ever after.
Mm.
And it's all done in a musical style, like old Hollywood musicals.
Yeah, that is one thing that I definitely appreciated a lot about the movie, is that it's very old Hollywood and its presentation. Right from the opening frame, the whole shot presented in CinemaScope is very reminiscent of like 50s Hollywood. There's all of the colors are very like saturated and vibrant. There's a lot of shots.
Color plays a big part in it, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of shots I especially liked where like they're up in the Hollywood Hills and you're looking down at the city and it almost looks like a matte painting behind them, but like not quite. I really liked that that whole aesthetic of the movie. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of musicals. There's just something about it that like the characters spontaneously breaking out into song and dance that kind of takes it out of it for me. But that being said, I feel like this movie did a very good job of incorporating the music into the story.
Mm-hmm.
It was very. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what I've experienced is this is a love it or hate it movie. I've never seen someone who is just okay with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely really enjoyed it, but it was definitely a. I wouldn't go so far as like I said, there are times where I'm like, okay, that like that weird part of me is like I'm taken out of the moment, but I definitely, as a whole, I think it was a very, very effective movie. Very solid performances from both of them, especially Emma Stone. I feel like there's a lot of great moments with her. One in particular, I don't want to say quite what it is yet, because it'll get into spoilers, but it's towards the end of the movie, when she's backstage and she overhears a conversation. She doesn't say anything, but the look on her face, like, it just, that really got me.
She plays this vulnerable really well in that. You see there's like a layer of insecurity to her character that I really enjoy.
Right, yeah. And it definitely, like, for both of them especially, but I think that you really, really see it on her.
Yeah, it's good. It's contrasted really well with Ryan Gosling's, like, very overconfident personality.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I kind of like, is that they kind of adopt each other's traits a little bit. Like, she becomes much more confident in herself, and he kind of starts to question himself a little bit more. But
yeah,
it was character growth done correctly.
Yeah, the whole movie is just held on these two characters, and they carry the story very well. It's very fun to watch them evolve as people over time.
Yeah,
you start with Emma Stone like flipping Ryan Gosling off in the hallway into like 30 minutes later when they're just madly in love.
Exactly, yeah. And that was one thing that I thought was really interesting, is because it's like you said, in the first half, it is like a traditional movie where there's like a whole bunch of people, and it's like you kind of look at it like it's almost like it's an ensemble play or whatever, where it's like you have your two main people and then there's this whole big huge supporting cast, but kind of as things like pick up for the two of them, it just kind of becomes them, like just them the entire like the whole, almost the whole rest of the movie except for like the very end, which I thought was very good. Especially interesting is that, like you said, it's a musical. And again, for like the first act, it's very upbeat, and like there's a song every other scene, and it like really kind of gets you like, I don't know the word, like it gets you very like invested and like, oh man, yeah, no, this is the great music. There's action, there's lots of stuff happening, but that kind of like quiets down.
Yeah, right after like City of Stars plays, it suddenly just becomes a normal movie. You kind of forget it's a musical after that.
Right, yeah, and the one thing that I kind of not getting too far into spoilers is that I feel like it kind of the moment where not necessarily like things go south, but like once that like their two characters like really start to develop and they start to like learn things about themselves and each other, that's kind of when the music stops. And I thought that was very interesting, kind of like foreshadowing with like maybe their like the way that they interact towards the end of the movie, like the idea of like uh the happiness and like the upbeat and like the just general overwhelming positivity kind of being drained a little bit. But I do like, again, for someone who doesn't particularly enjoy musicals that much, I did enjoy the way that they used the musical numbers to communicate subtle things like that.
Well, the thing I love about it the most is how much of a love letter it is to like Hollywood and like old film together. It's like it's a love story, but also a love letter to old cinema.
Exactly.
Like it has so many like it harkens back to Casablanca and all the old films that like a lot of people loved back then.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Like the way that it's presented, especially in the beginning with like a lot of like one takes, like it's a bit more dynamic than old Hollywood, where like they would kind of like set the camera down, face like an open set, and like let everyone kind of like a play, basically let everyone kind of go and like get it all done in like one or two shots. It's like I said, it's a bit more dynamic here, where you have like a lot of camera movement, especially in the first few musical numbers, which were really impressive. I like that it is kind of like that one movie that came out in I want to say like 2010 2011, The Artist. I forget who did it, but like that silent movie that was like made like kind of meant to look like it was from back in the 20s. It like kind of relished in like those themes and the way that it presented itself. I feel like that this was kind of that, but like with 50s musicals or 50s melodramas, where like everything is kind of over the top and in your face, but it's also very modern. And it just reaffirms Damien Chazelle's obsession with jazz music.
Oh God, yeah. I think every single project he's made is just jazz.
I haven't seen what's the he did a First Man. I think, did he do that or was it Ad Astra?
It was First Man, yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that one yet. So does he sneak jazz into there somewhere?
A little bit. There's a small part of Neil Armstrong's character that likes jazz.
Oh man, that's funny. I still haven't seen First Man yet, but I loved Whiplash and I really liked this a lot, so I'll have to check that out.
It's pretty good, but that's just my bias.
What were your thoughts on Whiplash, really quick? I don't want to get too far away from La La Land, but since we're talking about Damien Chazelle.
I adore Whiplash. It's one of my favorite, like, top 50 movies.
Definitely.
Like another one of my favorite movies, like top 5, is Black Swan. So I really love like obsession stories, and that Whiplash and Black Swan are usually like compared to each other because of how they.
There was a great.
Obsession.
I don't remember what YouTuber did it, but if I can find the video, you've probably seen it because it sounds like a lot of what you're describing. But there was a YouTuber who it might have been Every Frame a Painting, but I don't know. It was a channel who does a lot of film analysis, but he was specifically comparing the last 20 minutes of Whiplash to the last 20 minutes of Black Swan and drawing a lot of similarities.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Oh, so you've seen it?
Yeah, it's Lessons from the Screenplay.
Okay. But yeah, no, that's a great video, so if anyone's interested, check that out. I'll link that. But yeah, no, Whiplash is great, and I think Damien Chazelle is again, I haven't seen First Man yet, so I can't really speak too much on it, but I think that he's definitely one of the definitely one of the more fascinating directors to be paying attention to today. He has a very clear voice, and I love the way that he presents his different subject matter.
He definitely has a really like engaged, like, I don't know what he has a very unique style.
For sure, yeah. But I guess, yeah, getting back a little bit to La La Land, I guess we can start to spoil it a little bit. So if you haven't seen La La Land yet, I definitely recommend you should check it out. Let's see.
Definitely, I do.
It looks like it's available on Prime. Yeah, no, I watched it on Prime. I think you can rent it for $4. Also available on YouTube, Vudu, and Google Play for $4. I don't think you can rent it on iTunes, but it looks like it's available for purchase for $20, which that seems a bit much considering how old it is. But yeah, no, definitely check it out on any of those platforms. I think it's definitely worth it. You don't have an excuse not to. So yeah, I guess
almost won Best Picture.
Almost, yeah, yeah. That was I didn't see that live, but that was a hilarious shit show to watch later on. It's been ages since I've seen actually. Well, and I guess I was gonna say which one do you think should have won, but considering it's your second favorite movie, I think you have a very clear horse in that race.
I'm a little biased on that one.
Yeah, but so I guess getting into spoilers. So I guess let's talk about because we talked about the fact that it's very much presented in it's the style and the way the story is structured as sorry. It is structured very much in the style of a 50s melodrama where it's a very set type of story from start to finish. But it does kind of towards the second half, it kind of plays with that a little bit. It changes.
After the big Hollywood planetarium moment, it starts kind of grounding itself after that.
Yeah. It definitely, it kind of not necessarily flips it. Well, I guess if that would be the right term, flips it on its head, because it is kind of it plays with the idea of will they because I mean that is kind of inherent where it's the two people you didn't think would come together do, and then they're great, and then there's a misunderstanding or there's something that goes wrong and they split up for a while, but then they come back together and everything's great. But that's just not what happens here, and I thought it was very, very effective in the way that they handled it.
It uses one of my favorite writing styles, which I incorporate into a lot of my works nowadays, is the unsatisfactory ending. So it's kind of just bittersweet. Everything is fine. You're not angry with everything, but you're also just not happy.
Exactly, yeah. And it not only that, but it kind of I would say I would go so far as to not even call it unsatisfactory ending, because had they not pulled on your heartstrings and done that huge long extended flashbacks dream sequence, God, yeah, where it's here's what your life could have been then I think that then it would have been a good unsatisfactory ending. But it goes out of its way to almost be you will feel an emotion by the end of this, even if you've been stone-faced throughout.
By the end of it.
Exactly. But I just love it. That last scene especially, between the two of them, there's no words at all, but just the way they look at each other and the way their body language and the way he kind of is fixated on the piano and he looks up at her and they give each other one last glance. It's just
God, that nod kills me every time.
The nod, oh my God, yeah, it's so powerful. But yeah, it's just so I guess I can't name the song specifically. I think if I had to pick a favorite, I did really much enjoy I think it's just Here's to the Ones Who Dream, the one that she...
Oh, God, the audition, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the one that I remember, at least the melody of the most. I did kind of like the beginning, the way that it is kind of, very stereotypical, where it's hey, everything's great, everything's cool, and then you have the one where it's I'm kind of fed up, but I'm still kind of happy because I'm out in LA, and all that... And then, but I did really, really much enjoy the Here's to the Ones Who Dream. Not to the point where I remember all of it, but I think that if you had to sum up the movie in one song, I think that's the perfect piece to do that.
Yeah, that song is a real, just again, to use the comparison, a love letter to just the creative types and people who want to pursue their dreams like me and Sebastian do in the movie.
Right, yeah. And even smaller people like you or I trying to pursue our dreams on YouTube.
Exactly.
But yeah, no. So it was just La La Land was very, very, very good movie. I enjoyed it a lot.
Such a beautiful film.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Even just purely, I forget who said it, but I think the person was like, if you can turn the sound off of a movie and just purely look at the visuals and still get a sense of the story, then you know that it's done its job well. And I think that you could definitely watch this as like a silent movie and still get the same effect.
That's a great way to put it. Honestly, I've never heard that said before, but that is perfect. A perfect descriptor. And
I wish I could remember who said it, because that's one of those sayings I hear tossed around a lot. But yeah, no, it's just like I said, they like the stuff that's like real, but then they go out of their way to make it look like it's painted, just to get like that 50s aesthetic. The way that like all the brights are very like saturated in a very specific way. Nighttime.
The costumes are like very primary colored, so it stands out.
Yeah, like the nighttime is very like, it's not like black with like the neon a little bit. It's like it's like the deep blue and purple, and it's so beautiful.
Everything just looks like it's on a set of some sort, but there's an element of realism to it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just, I could go on and on about it.
Yeah, like even the opening scene looks like it's on a set, but it's done on an actual LA highway that they closed down.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely like I love that a lot of the scenes were kind of like the one shot, like the mimicking of the way things were shot back then. But that sequence in particular really impressed me with like the fact, because you have to imagine you don't even have to imagine, like if one thing goes wrong, then you're starting over, or you have to hide it with like someone moving in front of the lens really quick, and I'm sure that there's instances like that somewhere, but I couldn't pick up on them. But it was the fact that like, it's like you said, it looks like it's faked, but they actually did shut down the portion of that highway, and it is very very impressive. And and I like to imagine, because the one thing that kind of made me laugh a little bit was like, you can kind of tell where like the extras kind of get cut off, where it's like they're like here's the point where there's not anyone dancing. The one thing that I kind of like to imagine is what the people in the cars behind that dance number were, not necessarily in real life, but in the context of the movie, what those people were thinking was happening when that breaks out. I mean, talk about road rage.
Yeah, everyone's already backed up in LA and already angry, and then everyone's out their car and dancing all of a sudden.
Exactly.
My friends in LA talk about that scene like it's a real life thing.
I can imagine. That's the one thing I always hear about LA, is that the traffic is just terrible. But man, no, that opening sequence is just really impressive, and the movie as a whole is just really, really well done, really well put together. And I mean, it's coming from a director that I've already appreciated and very much want to see what he does next. So, it's definitely it's a great movie, and thank you for the recommendation.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.